Well, I'm delighted to be in Milledgeville, Georgia today at the headquarters of Fowler Flemister Concrete. We have the pleasure of speaking with Gus Pursley, the owner of Fowler Flemister. Gus, first let me thank you for taking time out of your busy day to share some of the history of your company with our members. Let's start with just hearing a little bit about yourself. Just tell us about, where you grew up, tell us your story.
Thank you, Bill, for taking time out to come all the way to Milledgeville. I appreciate you greatly putting this together. There's a lot of history in our association, a lot of history in the concrete industry. Forever, it was a mom and pop operation all the way across the state. And I think we've all got a story to tell. I was born and raised in Milledgeville, and I was born at the Binion Hospital, a little brick building, in 1957. My daddy had come back and gone to work right after the war from a childhood friend of his, Walter Williams, and gotten started in his business along the lines of Fowler Flemister then. But I attended Peabody Elementary School here and went on to Georgia Military College for 8th through 12th grade, and then attended a little bit of Georgia College till I met my wife, Helen, her first day of school. And after about a year and a half, we decided we both needed to go ahead and exit college and start moving forward with the family and focusing more on the concrete industry.
Well, good. That's so you're a native of Milledgeville.
I'm a native, born and raised.
Well, now give us the history of the company, of Fowler Flemister, the name, and just kind of give us the story.
My daddy grew up with a childhood friend in Haddock, Georgia, which had one little store. His name was Walter Williams, and back in the late 30s, Walter and his father bought Fowler Flemister Coal Company. It was started in 1907, and all they did was rail in coal and put it in bags and sell it around town to heat homes. And Mr. Fowler and Mr. Flemister gradually grew into building supply materials. And then in the late 30s, Walter Williams and his father bought Fowler Flemister and really went heavy on the builder material side. They had a sawmill. They would build their own windows, doors, cut their own molding. In 1946, when my daddy came home from the Philippines, he went to work for Walter running the business. In the early mid-50s, they had a man that brought a little portable plant to town to build a bridge. And when he got through building the bridge, he didn't really want to take the plant. He was kind of tired of it. So Fowler Flemister bought his little plant, bought his one or two small trucks, three-yard mixers, and they got into the concrete business. And back then, they could weigh up the sand and the stone, but the cement they'd take an old forklift, lift up bags of cement and put 5 bags per yard. And of course, the trucks didn't carry more than 3 yards, and they would go out and take care of whatever job they had. And as time went on, they modernized. I can remember when I first started coming around, you climbed up a long set of steps to the plant, and when you got up into the plant, you had 3 levers. You had for your overhead bins, you had your one sand and 2 rocks. And then we would start off by loading the sand and the rock. The truck would pull up about 15, 20 feet to where he was up under a way hopper that was under the cement silo. You'd walk a little ramp over to that platform. You'd weigh up your cement. Then you'd back the truck back up and finish putting in your water or whatever and handwrite your ticket and send him on his way. We modernized by getting to where we put in an auger so we can now auger the cement over. We put in a larger hopper so we could go to 4-yard batches. Then we went to 8-yard batches. And from as time went on, you got your scales that had your electronic dials so that you could preset your dials, on the scales, and as the scale would hit those dials, it would cut off your cement. It would start your fly ash and finish up your weighing cycle. Sand and stone were still done by hand, watching the scales and stopping when you needed to. All our mixed designs were an old paper binder. You flipped over and found out what you wanted. You went down, did you want a half a yard, a yard and a half, yard and a quarter? It was broken down all the way to a 8-yard batch. Then we started introducing admixes, calcium chloride, your retarder. As fly ash came into play, we started adding your air entrainment. This started changing all of the way you did business. Probably in the early 80s, we finally built a batch house, got our first computer system, and actually put our plant manager in a comfortable environment, and just started kind of modernizing and going from there. We still had in 1963, they put in a small plant in Edenton, Georgia. That was a little Ross portable. Ran one truck up there. If there was need for more, they would send a truck out of Milledgeville, but usually one truck would pretty much do the job on a given day up there. In the 80s, Lake Oconee started coming on. Mr. Tommy Hodges had followed the Interstate 20. He had built a plant in Madison and Greensboro, and as Lake Oconee dammed up, started backing up and growing a little bit, he didn't want to modernize. He didn't want to change. He didn't want to get two-way radios to be able to communicate with drivers. And he called us up one day and said, "I'm going to sell out. Would you like to come buy me?" And Daddy and I went up there and bought out Hodges Ready Mix. So we now went from 2 plants to 4. We were in Milledgeville, Edenton, Greensboro, and Madison. And that turned out to be a really good market for us. We continued to grow, eventually went into Monticello. And as time went on, we would get rid of the old bucket lift with the material handling. We'd get rid of, go to conveyor belts, eventually modernize, eventually go to computers at all our plants. Of course, as time went on, you got rid of the two-way radios and you started going to cell phones. But it's been a great ride. When I was in college, Daddy would always call me up and say, "Okay, what time you get out of class today? I need you down here at the office." And one day I showed up. I was 18, 19 years old, and he told me to get in a concrete truck. And I said, "Well, I've never driven one." He said, "Well, you're going over here about 2 miles away, and I've told the customer, Georgia Power, that you've never driven one before, and just have patience with you." And I said, so I ground gears all the way over. I've driven dump trucks, but never one that had with the type of shifting that came with the concrete truck and those transmissions. But I got the job taken care of. We were pouring pillars for transformers, and it wasn't real hard. And that kind of got me going on the concrete truck side. Well, I became a cheap truck driver, and I could fill in the afternoons, and I think that's one reason college never was a big player, because I always knew where I was going and what I was going to do. One other brief story: the first time I ever drove a small dump truck, it had the old hydraulic brakes. We went down to the sand pit, got myself and a driver, and we got 7 tons of sand. And he said, "All right, I'm going to let you drive back." And when we started out of the sand pit, I was shifting gears as fast as I could go. Well, about halfway up the hill, it stalled out. With hydraulic brakes, you had about 2 pumps, and then you didn't have any brakes. And we rolled backwards all the way down the hill. And when we finally got to the bottom and we finally got stopped and finally got cranked back up, he looked at me and he said, "What'd you learn?" I said, "I'm not sure. What did I learn?" And he said, leave it in low gear and just walk up the hill till you get to the top. And I had the opportunity to work with a lot of old timers, and that's where how I cut my teeth in the business and have grown to where we are now.
I'm trying to visualize you in that dump rolling backwards down into the sand pit. Wasn't pretty. So you still, as you said when I got here, you were out hauling some loads yesterday. Is that right?
Oh yeah, my primary job is I've pretty much turned the business over, and I am the driver that gets called in. I tell all my customers and I tell all my plant managers, you don't ever tell a customer we don't have any more trucks for the day until I'm sitting in one. I've got my old truck. It's a 2006 Peterbilt that they repainted for me. I just recently got a brand new radio put in it. It's Bluetooth, so I can talk while I ride. And on a given week, I think today is Thursday. I've already spent 2 days in a concrete truck this week hauling concrete. And if usually during the summer, if a cement tanker driver takes a week for vacation, I'll fill in and run cement for the week. They don't trust me to blow it off, but they will let me drop tankers and pick up an empty and go back and refill it.
Well, let me ask you this, Gus. You said that you turned the business over. Talk a little bit about that process. Talk about how you have, kind of prepared for the next generation of leadership in your company.
Well, I'm very blessed. I had a son-in-law, Mackenzie Davenport, and my son, Gus the Fourth, who had an interest in the business. And one day I asked Gus, or John Gus, I said, do you want it? He said, yes, sir. And I said, well, do you want a partner in Mackenzie, or do you want to run it by yourself? And he said, I'd like to have a partner. So they came in and joined me about 6 years ago. That's what has got me freed up to where I can drive a truck. I've turned it over to them. I still express my opinion on a regular basis, not always wanted or asked for. And I just tell them the way things used to be as a reference point. But they are doing a great job. They're running it, and as we always laugh and say, it's kind of John Gus's and his sisters, and Mackenzie will just always work for his wife.
That's good. I haven't heard that one. Let me ask you this: I'd be curious to hear. You look back over the years. Who's been very influential? Who would you say in your career in this business? Who influenced you?
I don't know if there was any one single person other than my father, and just learning by his tried and true ways. When you're in a small rural business like the concrete business, it's and for us about 80% of our business every year is residential. So depending on how the market fluctuated, depending on kind of how our business was, and I just remember watching him and how he ran it and dealt with customers, and the things that he would emphasize that he wanted. Your customer's always right. Your customer always comes first. He would tell a driver, if you want to blow up on the job site, don't blow up at the customer. You come back and I'll sit here and listen to whatever you want to rant and rave over. And but outside of that, there have been a lot of people from the admix industry to the cement industry, the aggregate, other ready mix producers that maybe were in larger markets, and just being around them and listening to what they had to say and stories they had to tell were just all helped kind of shape the way things went and the way I did things.
Well, that's good, and it kind of leads into my next question. You kind of alluded to it a little bit, because I know that you've had a long history with the Georgia Ready Mix Association, of course, formerly called back in the day the Georgia Concrete and Products Association. But tell us about that, if you would. Tell us about over the years the benefits, the value that you gained from the association.
The association, my father was a strong believer in it, and I feel just as strongly about it today. For us, being small, being family owned, we lacked a lot of knowledge, a lot of technology, a lot of expertise that would arise every now and then for a need. And back in the old days with the association, you had, I really remember Sam. She was the director, but we would always have an engineer that would be that was there to answer any technical questions or help you with your problems. And the committees were set up to where you had a safety committee, environmental committee. But there were a lot of times we would call the association and we'd say, we got this problem. We've got some cracking that we don't know, we're not sure what's causing it. Typically whoever the engineer on the staff at the time would come down and would be able to help us or could get us some information to back up what we might need to tell the customer. They were just a huge resource. This was pre-computers, so they were a huge resource of knowledge to us. And then going to the conventions every year was fantastic. The meetings were always structured, very beneficial. One that will always kind of stick out was when they first started talking about drug testing. And they had somebody at the convention that was going on and on about the importance of drug testing. We had just had a wreck. It wasn't a severe wreck, but we had a wreck prior to going to the convention. Decided we might need to test that driver, and we did. And sure enough, he was positive for drugs. And but it's things like this that the convention has offered us by pulling in people from the DOT. We were always kept up to date as kind of which direction they were going, whether it was weight laws or some change in the way they wanted things done or just projects they had coming up. And today, I know just coming off this last convention, it's very beneficial listening to learning about what's going on around the state firsthand, talking to other producers about similar problems, either with labor or materials or allocations and how they're working their way through it. And you just need that central point that you can always turn to in that annual convention that will always pull you together so that you can be in the company of fellow producers.
That's good. I hear what you're saying. It's there's just so much value to the association, but there's also, I think, fond memories. It's such a relational business. And could you say a little bit about that? Talk a little bit about those fond memories of friendships.
Well, in the early days, the convention basically lasted 2 days of meetings. So, and then one afternoon of fishing, one afternoon of golf. They had to figure out something to do to entertain the ladies. So they would have scavenger hunts. They would have speakers come in for them and talk about fashion. And my mother was always big in the bridge club. And Gaylight, I guess it was Daylight Materials, Joel Hammond, his company sponsored the bridge tournament every year and had a big silver champagne bucket. And after you won so many tournaments, they just gave you the bucket. And I've still got the bucket that my mother won after running the gauntlet on several years of winning the bridge tournaments. But it was just they just had a way of keeping everybody entertained. And some of the fondest memories for my children in particular was Walter Harvard and W.L. Maddox calling bingo in the old days. And they had a way of sitting up there and calling and picking on different families and just making it very, very entertaining. And even when it came down to the Calcutta, they had a way of making people buy themselves when they didn't even realize they were buying themselves out of Calcutta for an inflated price.
That's good. Well, Gus, on behalf of the members of our wonderful association, I thank you for spending part of your morning with us and telling us about your company. Thanks again.
Thank you, Bill, for taking your time out, and I hope down the road this will mean something to the next generation of producers. It's a great industry. It's got a lot to offer, and you can't build one thing in this world without concrete.